We're going to get out the voltmeter here. And we're going to just find out which pin is positive and which pin is negative on the adapter plug. Because on the power adapter, that one with the white shielding is positive and the one that's bare is negative. That's your ground. So we just need to make sure they get matched up properly. And we went ahead and soldered those wires now to the adapter plug. Just finishing that up. And I want to hold it in front of the camera and show you exactly what we did. And this is our product at this point. It's very important that those two wires are not touching, or any frayed part of the wire is touching the other part of the wire. It will create a direct short circuit, and we don't want that. Let's do a little cleaning up here. And do a little cleaning up. It's a smart thing to do when you're done working with your tools and materials, put them back in the same spot you got them in. Don't just keep a big pile. Keep your space clean. You can get more done that way. Now what we're going to do is take some electrical tape here, and we're going to wind it around those wires that we just soldered, just to make sure that they stay separated and they're insulated. And I'll show you what I'm doing as soon as we get that back in the frame. We got the electrical tape around the two wires, and then we pushed up the heat shrink tubing over those two wires. The smaller heat shrink tubing, and then we take the thicker heat shrink tubing and we put it over the adapter plug. Now we're going to take our voltmeter before we do anything, and before we seal up the heat shrink tubing, and test the power adapter. Make sure that we're getting the proper voltage through it. And it goes right to about 19 volts, which is what we want, so we know our connections are okay. Now, because I don't have a heat gun or a lighter, I'm actually going to use the barrel of my soldering iron to melt the heat shrink tubing. Not the most optimum thing to do in the world, but it's workable in a bind, and it gives you a nice even, shrinking of the tubing, which is what we want. So once we get the inner part melted, we do the same thing to the outer part. Try not to keep the soldering iron on the heat shrink tubing at one place one time. For too long, it'll burn, and it won't smell real good either. I'm going to speed this up for you guys. Okay, that took a little while, but we're getting close, and this is going to be our finished product. Nicely shrunken. 2 layers of heat shrink tubing with the electrical tape on the inside. That came out pretty good. That's one of my better jobs, I must say. And those things are soldered direct to those posts. They're not going to go anywhere. It's a pretty secure connection. Now, what I'm about to do next might seem a little crazy. I'm actually going to cut that whole tip off of this power adapter. In between the footage here, I tested that power adapter again, and I found out the power brick itself was actually bad, not putting out the proper voltage. So since we already installed a tip, got all the heat shrink tubing done, we're just going to install this tip on another power adapter. Now this other power adapter actually has a bad tip itself, so we're going to take the good tip that we just created and solder it directly onto this new power adapter. And what we do with this is, we cut the wire, then we separate the ground from the positive. Get that old power adapter out of the way. Throw that in the trash. Okay. We're actually going to plug this in now and test the voltage. Make sure you do not touch the two wires together, positive and negative, while you're doing this. Got our voltmeter out. We have our exposed wires there, not touching each other. We're going to take the black to the ground, red to the positive, which is the white. Check the meter. We're getting 19 volts. We're going to unplug that power adapter. We don't want any voltage running to this while we're working on it. I did that once. It wasn't fun. Caused a rather large spark.